how it works in the enterprise is here's your SharePoint server. Your SharePoint server has resources that it's protecting in the background. Simply drop in the SecureAuth appliance, and this could be a virtual server, or this could be an actual hardware deployment. The SecureAuth server does the authentication, as we discussed. It's set up to do forms-based authentication and take the authentication. During the authentication process, the server itself connects with the enterprise and has a browser helper. The browser helper does the difficult part that where X509 usually fails. That is in user education. The browser helper actually does the install of the certificate key pair for the end user. In addition, it also does the extraction of the key pair for the end user. That way, there is no user education. And as we'll show you in this demo, the forms that the SecureAuth appliance has does the walkthrough for the user. So there is no X509 typical PKI education for the end user. One of the most revolutionary part of the SecureAuth solution is that it's using valid Microsoft WSS 3.0 web services. The appliance itself is simply a trusted client sub of the Microsoft of the SecureAuth web services. These web services are SMS text messaging, telephony, one-time passwords, and certificate services. These are the advanced rocket science type functionality that an enterprise would have to, in a different scenario, deploy themselves. What the SecureAuth solution uniquely does is use valid, cryptographically authenticated web services to provide these functionalities for the enterprise. So you can think of these as part of your solution, but in essence, there is nothing to maintain, deploy, or do subsequent maintenance on the product. Let's show a demo which greatly helps people understand the value and the simplicity of the multi-factor SecureAuth solution coupled with the SharePoint solution. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, so as you see the screen, we have the SecureAuth solution integrated into various platforms, including ASP.NET, Outlook Web Access, and Windows SharePoint. So we click on the SharePoint server. That's the URL for SharePoint. Notice what happened. Using native Microsoft forms-based authentication, the user gets redirected to the authentication appliance of SecureAuth. The user simply puts in his user ID, and in this case, the user is simply asked for his password. This is because I have already registered this browser, and I'll go through the registration process. Now, the audience members who have used SharePoint, notice the screen, see, great, now I'm in SharePoint, I can do whatever the SharePoint application makes me want to do. Let me sign out of SharePoint, and now I'm back at the SecureAuth screen. In this scenario, what I'm actually going to do is remove the user's certificate. By removing the certificate, it's like me coming to a different resource, say a different machine. In this case, the user is asked to register. Now we're extracting information from the users, from the enterprise's Active Directory in this case. That's stored at the enterprise. In this case, the user has the ability to choose from phone, SMS, email, or PIN validation. The user in this case chooses the phone one-time registration. And what is happening in this scenario is literally the end user is communicating to the SharePoint server, which then does a call to the server's SecureAuth appliance, and makes a phone call to the end user. And as you can hear, the user is audibly given the one-time registration code, and he puts it through the non-phishable keylogger panel. Subsequently, the user simply puts in his Active Directory password, and then what has happened uniquely now in our product is a public-private key pair uniquely is created for this user with some specific information. Information, of course, about the user, but also about the enterprise itself. Therefore, on subsequent authentication, the user just adds a user ID password. And the user, most importantly, is directed into the SharePoint application. Okay, as promised in this discussion, we're going to go into how this is actually deployed. For that, I'm going to turn it over to my Director of Software Products, Jeff Lowe.